Necromancers have been something people have requested since forever, but now it seems like Blizzard might finally be setting up something to come in the future. Realistically, Shadowlands was the perfect opportunity to add the Necromancers, yet that didn't happen, and we know in Dragonflight there won't be a new class other than the Evokers. However, with what has been going on in 9.2.5, a lot of things are hinting at the fact that Blizzard is slowly setting the ground to add Necromancers later down the line, either as a full-on class or just a spec for multiple existing classes. We learned that there is a Light, Void, Life, and all types of Necromancy, even Arcane Necromancy, and Blizzard has already reworked and changed up class packs in the past. Now, when you add this to the previous lore, this really is mind-blowing info. So, what is going on, and will we be getting the Necromancers in the future? If you guys are looking to buy a new mouse, then check out SteelSeries. Recently, they've sent me the wireless one and the wired Aerox 5, and they really are something. The Aerox mice are ultra lightweight, essentially is a feather in your hand, but in a good way, as the build feels quality and it has a really good sensor. I especially like the wireless one because you can also wire it and you can use it wireless with multiple modes, and it has an excellent battery life for over 180 hours. The thing about Aerox 5 is that it is one of the most versatile mice on the market with 5 side buttons, and you can use it for pretty much any game you want. Although, if you're really into hardcore MMORPG stuff, especially PvP, then Aerox 9 might be the best option. Another awesome thing as well is the SteelSeries GG app, where you can customize your hardware, lighting, macros. Furthermore, you can even record gameplay with GG moments at the click of a button. So check out the link in the description below and get your own SteelSeries mouse. If you have followed 9.2.5 and the most recent Kalia Manatil questline, you might have realized that we learned something really important about Necromancy and just the way Undeath works in World of Warcraft. Previously, we've kinda known about it. I mean, Undead were a thing as far as Warcraft 3, but there was always just speculations from the denizens of Azeroth. Some tried to cure it, some tried to do this and that, but then we went to the Shadowlands, and most importantly, Kalia Manatil went to Maldraxxus to consult with the CEO of Necromancy, and they gave us some super cool answers that now actually make a lot of sense when you combine it with what happened in the past and all the old info that we had. To sum it up super quickly, we went to the Shadowlands in order to analyze a sample of the Plague of Lordran that Sylvanas unleashed in order to counter it, but Kalia decided to ask some personal questions, as most of the Forsaken don't really accept her as one of their own, so it's kind of a big deal. Realistically, they should, as after all, most Forsaken are former Lordaeron citizens, and she is the only true heir to the Manatil throne. However, a major difference is that she is a most recent version of the Undead, something really unholy, a light-bound Undead, which kinda seems like something that shouldn't even be possible in any way, but it is. So, I guess most of the Undead kinda see her as having nothing in common with them, as she didn't fall to the Scourge of Lordaeron or go to terrible times as Sylvanas Windrunner did, questioning their purpose and their future in Azeroth. What even is the point? Instead, she was resurrected as a light-bound Undead quite recently, which is a very unique form. So, Kalia decided to ask Margrave Sindain, the leader of the House of Ritual in Maldraxxus, and he pretty much just said, don't worry about it. Necromancy is necromancy, there are no multiple forms of it, it is the exact same thing. The only difference is the source from where this comes from. So, the Forsaken were created by death magic, while she was created by life magic, but technically, they are one and the same. So this is the newest lore information, but people on Reddit connected the dots and made some really interesting theories that seriously present that this entire storyline isn't just a bridge between the Undead and Kalia, but it might actually be setting up the ground, the lore ground, for a new Necromancer class or possibly a spec to be added to one of the existing classes. Now, when you think of Necromancers, you more than likely think of those undead guys with a big tome, a skull on their head, raising skeletons, something akin to the Warcraft 3 necromancers that you have played with. However, realistically, we have always seen multiple forms of necromancy, and it kinda completely flew past us. It's like the entire lore community just didn't really think twice about it, as there is a lot more to necromancy than we previously believed. Here is the actual proof. Regular necromancy is the one all of us are familiar with. These are your undead necromancers, death knights, all those powered by death magic from the Shadowlands related to the Lich King. However, we have things like life necromancy. Remember Bolvar 4 Dragon, the guy that pretty much died but was mysteriously raised by dragon flames that turned him into something akin to an undead? Well, this would be life necromancy. Even more interestingly, we have arcane necromancy. Remember Merrill Fellstorm? He has been an undead for thousands of years, that he has nothing to do with the Shadowlands or the undead that we know of today. He was just like his own species. Then we have void necromancy. We have seen this all the time throughout the years. And opposite to this, we have the light necromancy, which at the moment is Calia Menethil, but there are definitely more out there that we might discover in the future. Lastly, we also have Fel necromancy. We have seen multiple examples throughout the years. One of these, you might remember the iconic headless horseman, the undead guy with fel flames just coming out of his head. So now that the guy from Eldraxxas confirmed that there is no difference between all these forms and that the only sources change, how is that we didn't really realize this earlier? Seriously, we have seen undead from all 6 cosmological forces in the recent times, and it has really been a thing for well over a decade. Now, this is from the lore side, but let's get to the main topic of this video. How does this mean that Blizzard is setting up the ground for a Necromancer class to be added in the future? Well, as the thread on Reddit said, it might not be a full-on new class, as realistically we are not getting anything in the next 2-3 years with Dragonflight, but it could totally be a setup for a future spec for another class, or even all the classes that we have, although realistically, balance-wise, that would just be a complete nightmare. However, why would this be the case? Like, why should we get a Necromancer spec? Well, first of all, you might have noticed that we pretty much saved the Shadowlands. We are friends with the actual Arbiter of Death. We placed him on the throne, and we literally just went to Maldraxxus to consult how to solve some problems on our planet. And, you know, we also went to Zereth Mortis, which is connected to all the cosmological forces. In a way, we are pretty much just bros with the Death God, so it would totally make sense that we utilize the power of the Shadowlands, which is the origin of necromancy, and then only combine it with the rest of the cosmological forces in order to make an actual class. This unique blend would mean we don't really need a new class, but instead necromancers could become a part of existing classes, just being a spec that uses Shadowlands powers. I mean, we already have priests that use the Void. Do you ever think, why is that? Why can't we also have priests that use Shadowland magic, for example, like Shadowlands necromancy? Even a light spec could use Shadowland stuff. I know it would be a nightmare to add a new spec to every single class, all the casters, nearly impossible to balance. However, necromancers have traditionally been cloth-wearing casters, something akin to mages and priests, so maybe this spec could only be added to 1 or 2 of the existing ones. It could also be for warlocks, as we have known them to utilize all types of magic, always pretty much the most dangerous forms, so necromancy would be pretty much nothing new to them. Now, to confirm this, Blizzard actually has a history of changing up specs, adding new ones and not making it equal. Druids, for example, have 4 specs. There are classes that only have 2 specs, so really they're not under any sort of pressure to make all classes have 3 specs, like that is the standard and that is all. Blizzard even reworked and replaced specializations in the past that they didn't feel were really too different, such as when they added melee hunters. So this is why they could totally make this work for priests, for example. They could just add the 4th spec and then they could make necromancers possible, and really there would be no balancing nightmares. I honestly doubt we could get a necromancer for every cosmological power, but maybe light ones could be possible in the near future, as we now have this entire storyline with Calia Menethil and all that happened in 9.2.5 and just Shadowlands overall. To top this all off, we have even more ways they could add this. Anduin was a pure light priest that was corrupted by death magic and was essentially a death knight for a time, so this could be a blend for the future if he returns. It could seriously be a similar case to what happened to Void Elves. Like, we have always seen the Void as this bad, evil thing, and then we realized it is just a thing, and then we got brand new Void race. We realized it could just be used for good. Well, the same thing could be done with death. We have always seen the undead as abominations, just completely unholy, but now we went to the Shadowlands, we might realize that death is not what we used to believe, and it could just be another power source that could be used for good in the future. This could be the perfect fuel for a brand new Necromancer class or a spec to be added. These Necromancers wouldn't be evil, they wouldn't be wearing skulls and just like raising skeletons, they wouldn't raise people against their will and do bad things, but instead they could summon beings from Maldraxxus, for example. This would pretty much be the exact same thing as other classes do with void beings or demons. It would just be the Shadowlands version. So while I don't believe they will be adding a brand new class anytime soon, I think this theory that they're setting up the ground for a new spec to be added to one of the existing classes such as the Priests actually seems highly realistic. With Calia Menethil being one of the Forsaken leaders, Thralian being the leader of the Alliance and the leader of the Army of the Light, Lightbound Undead might become a thing as well, as Light Necromancers or just Necromancers overall, using all the different power sources. While I doubt this will happen as soon as Dragonfight or the pre-patch for Dragonfight, I think it could definitely be possible for the expansion that might come after. These recent lore happenings could just be the first steps to make this transition possible, and let's be real, adding Necromancers would be a really popular move for Blizzard, as people have requested this class pretty much since the Burning Crusade, and Blizzard actually planned to add them back in Wrath of the Lich King, so really they have been flirting with this idea for decades. Thank you for watching. Check out this Dragonflight Pandaria 2.0 by clicking on the screen, and check out Donuts Academy for videos on real-world history. See you next time.